So, today, article was shared with me that dipped if I could be bothered finding it right now. So, there's these two kids coming up, right? Why am I putting that aside? Don't put that aside, Shannon. Don't put aside your stuff. Future Watch is out now. Go get it. Hockey News. It's an amazing magazine. Future Watch. Every year, it's awesome. And I disagree with some of their rankings. They rate teams, but I'm not here to talk about the ratings on this. Not in this video. The number 3 listed prospect for the New York Rangers, Igor Shesterkin. The heir apparent to Henrik Lundqvist, Shesterkin has all the tools, great reflexes, superb lateral movement, a quick glove, and focus similar to that of the King. The Moscow native, who played in the 2018 Olympics, was a KHL All-Star for a second straight year. Shesterkin won't arrive till America until after 2018-19. Having signed a 3-year extension in 2016, he splits time with Mikko Koskinen, but check out his career stats with St. Petersburg, 56, 10, and 12. We discussed SKA last time I talked about the Russian league. Remember? Putin's a great guy. 1.81 goals against average, 926 save percentage, and 15 shutouts overall. And let's go ahead and take a look at the Washington goaltender Ilya Samsonov. Samsonov's numbers don't match those from the spectacular season he managed last year in the KHL, but a 949 and a save percentage and 1.28 goals against average is a high bar. He's very athletic, powerful, his focus and competitiveness are excellent, said assistant GM Ross Mahoney. In short, Samsonov is the total package. He will likely start in the AHL when his KHL contract expires at the end of the regular season. He needs to get regular action and adjust to the North American game before jumping to the NHL. Now, I'm old. I know that. And this article today was basically along the lines of Semyon Varlamov and Sergei Bobrovsky are the reason that there's this or the start of this Russian wave, or there's this Russian wave coming over thanks to these guys. And I saw this and I went, no. Here's why. 10 years ago it was Finland. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, we were all talking about all the goalies coming out of the Quebec League. It's just cyclical. And not only that, but there's a couple of them. And now there's Georgiev. I was going to say Grigori. Why am I going Grigori? Anyways, Georgiev or Gorgiev or Gorgiev. Gorgiev seems to be the way they pronounce it, but it sounds weird, doesn't it? With his 929 save percentage early in his career right now. Of course, Gorgiev is Bulgarian-born, but he's a Russian citizen. So technically, because his family moved to Russia when he was young, he's a Russian goalie. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to take a look at this, because the idea that there's this wave of Russian goalies is fun. It's an interesting idea. But there's always been Russian goalies in the league. So I looked it up. And what's interesting is this page is every goalie who's ever played a game in the NHL. And I just wrote down their save percentages. Nikolai Habibulin leads the way with the most games played. Then Evgeny Nabokov, Ilya Brizgalov, Semyon Varlamov, Sergei Bobrovsky, Michael Stalenkov. Now, I like Stalenkov, or Stalenkov, depending on how it was pronounced, by whatever announcer was calling the game. I did. I thought he was okay. He was a Ducks goalie early in their existence. Of course, Andrei Vasilevsky, Anton Hudobin, Andrei Trefilov, Sergei Milnikov, who when he came over and played for Quebec was a shadow of his former self. Gorgiev is already ahead of 3 guys. Evgeny Konstantinov, Andrei Markov, and Alexander Pechersky, who I must have missed when he played. He played a game, I think. It's a weird situation, and we're going to talk about... The weird thing to me is this. When we talk about Russian goalies, to me there's only one. There's only one. Vladislav Tretiak, who was put in the Hall of Fame in 1989. He is one of 2. Kharlamov was the other. Because Kharlamov in the 70s and early 80s. Wow. Great player. The Russians had such a mystique that Tretiak got into the Hockey Hall of Fame without playing a single game in North America. He was drafted by the Montreal Canadiens in 1983, and I remember when that happened, I was like, Oh, don't. No. No, no, no. Because Montreal doesn't need Tretiak coming over. Tretiak ended up retiring shortly after, but looking back, wouldn't that have been fun if the Iron Curtain had decided, you know what, we'll let Tretiak go over and play in Montreal for a year or two. But what would that have done to this young up-and-coming goalie named Patrick Roy? That's an interesting topic, too. Tretiak's totals are as this. For CSKA Moscow, and for people who are mad about SKA and the way that they're dominating the league, well, the Red Army team was pretty darn good too. The Soviets loved having their powerhouse team and sending it over to North America to fight with the NHL teams. For Moscow, Tretiak had 482 games played and he had a 2.31 goals against. Other stats, they didn't keep him. He played for a while. He played from 1968 till 1984. He was a first-team All-Star in the Soviet League from 1971 till 1984, meaning he was the best goalie in the league for a while. And he's only, as I said, he's one of only 2 Russian players who are in the Hall of Fame who never came over to North America. Olympic gold in 1972, 1976, and 1984. Of course, 1980, the interesting thing too is the Tretiak story in 1980 goes like this. So when they're against the Americans in that big game, the Miracle on Ice, we all know what I'm talking about here. Tretiak was in that. They score, the Americans score on him, and the coach decides, I'm going to go with the backup. Once he goes with the backup, the floodgates open. If they'd let Tretiak stay in there, does the miracle happen? I don't know. He had 10 world championships, and the IIHF recognized him as the goalie of the century. So when I hear about Shesterkin and I hear about Samsonov, that's the name that comes to mind for me. That's what I think of. So when I hear people talk about Nabokov and Varlamov, sounds so weird saying it like that. And just looking down the list, Habby Bullen was a solid goalie for a while. The other thing that gets me, and I say this as a guy who's got about 10 years worth of these magazines in my possession. I've got a bunch of them, and now that I've got a new Future Watch, I'm going to be going through some older ones. Because I understand both goalies are putting up big totals, but we're already building them up to a standard they may not be able to reach. And we do that with prospects a lot. And it's not just goalies. Obviously, it happens with forwards, defensemen, everybody. They get built up to this level that they just can't get to. And of the two, if you play for SKA St. Petersburg, you're probably not getting the same quality shots as the other guy. You're probably playing behind the best defense in the league, the best team in the league, obviously. And so there's a bit of a grain of salt that I throw in there. And again, the KHL rule, it's, you look at KHL players, not goalies, players, and when they come over to the NHL, not all of them play great. Look at this year. Okay? Yes, Dadonov came over and played very well. Vegas had less success with their KHL transplant. The weird part was he only played 3 games. And now he's back over in the KHL playing for the stacked team because that's what you do. So yeah, I wanted to do a video on that and get your take on it. For Rangers and Capitals fans, I'm not trying to rain on anybody's parade. I hate seeing these guys get built up to these levels and think, well, geez, now if he's not the next Henrik Lundqvist, now people are going to be upset. Well, if Samsonov isn't the savior for the Capitals, and they may need one. Holtby hasn't looked like Holtby this year. And in the playoffs last year, Holtby wasn't fantastic either. Is Holtby on a downswing? So Samsonov may very, very well find himself in a position where he could be the starter as soon as, not this coming year, but the year after. So there's going to be pressure. And I do wonder when I see, these articles and this excitement, and obviously for fans, they're going to get excited. Can they live up to it? But the idea that it's a Russian wave, it's kind of strange to hear it because there's always a country sending over a bunch of goalies. Sometimes they're Canadian. Sometimes you get a bunch of Americans that come in at once. Sometimes you get a bunch of Finns that come in. And it's just, it's one of those things. But it's always funny because I remember there's articles, I'll have to go and find them, but there's articles on goaltenders from the mid 90s where it was everybody's out of Quebec. Look what Patrick Roy and Marty Brodeur have done. They've created a whole new generation of goalies and yada yada yada. And now we are all these years later, and somewhere along the way that kind of got derailed. There's still French goalies, but it's not like it was in the mid 90s. So it's just this cyclical thing, and I find it kind of weird that people still get caught up in it. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.